As the government is facing calls this morning to get tough with violent offenders, and this follows the revelation that thousands of serious assaults result in the attacker receiving just a police caution. Tonight's edition of the BBC programme Panorama reports that almost 800 cautions were given for grievous bodily harm last year, and nearly 39,000 for actual bodily harm. Well, Dean Martin ended up in A&E after an unprovoked attack in a nightclub, but his attacker also received just a caution.
They were shouting whenever I first went into the toilet, and then it became more heated. Coming out and going to wash my hands and getting the blow of some sort. Then he's also smashed the bottles of aftershave into me as well.
His attacker later apologised for what was a totally unprovoked assault.
Dean Martin joins us now, along with Simon Reid, Vice Chairman of the Police Federation of England and Wales. I can still see you've got scars on your forehead. What are the other effects of that vicious, unprovoked attack?
Well, I still suffer from tinnitus. As I say, I was knocked out from the first blow, but he did tell the police that he struck me several times, so I'd imagine he's hit me at the side of the head. Suffer from chronic headaches nearly every day of the week as well. And it's still very much in your memory? Yeah, that's the original sight of you after that attack. Was there any explanation for you as to why he only got a caution? Well, basically, when I came out of hospital, the next day, the police lady called out and said that just because he didn't have a criminal record, and it was his first, he admitted it. He admitted common assault, and because he didn't have a record, basically, he qualified for a caution.
How do you feel about that?
It's a joke, really. I didn't receive any justice whatsoever. And then you read papers and things, you hear about people going to court over silly things like not using the correct bins and stuff. But yet, some GBH gets away with it completely.
Simon, I have to say, you know, what on earth is going on? Grievous bodily harm, actual bodily harm, resulting in a caution. Why?
It's totally inappropriate in Dean's circumstances, but I think it's the legacy that we still have from the target culture, where it really wasn't about dealing with people for the harm they caused. It really was just about a tick in the box, deal with that crime and move on. And
is this a decision the police make or the Crown Prosecution Service?
It's both. On this occasion it would appear to have been the police, but just bear in mind the CPS now are responsible for charging, so in the majority of the cases for serious crime they're making the cautioning decision, not solely the police.
So it's about relieving the courts of pressure, making sure the prisons aren't full to bursting, but at the same time being seen to do something.
Exactly, and it's all about making the whole system quicker and cheaper. A caution is instant, it's done, and we move on, whereas if you were to produce a file, go to court, there's a cost, it's prolonged, and there's a chance that the individual won't be convicted.
So they don't want to take that risk because it might cost too much money and take too much time.
That's right.
Meanwhile, people like this walk away feeling they don't care about victims, they only care about the offenders. Exactly,
and there's also the issue about the deterrent effect for the future for the offenders who are committing these crimes.
Yeah, what incentive is it, indeed? The other point, I hadn't realised until I started reading the notes for this, if you're only given a caution, if the perpetrator's only given a caution, that might affect his claim or somebody else's claim for compensation.
Often it does. The file may contain the reason why the caution was given. Sometimes there are reluctant witnesses and there are reluctant victims. That's often considered when compensation is later claimed from the compensation authority.
But how do we resolve this? I mean, if the courts are jammed with cases, as we know they are, if the prisons are full to bursting, as we know they are, how do you get around this? How do you stop crazy injustices, which this appears to be?
If that is the problem, then we need to invest more in the system. We simply should not just be allowing people to receive cautions when we have a victim such as Dean with quite serious injuries. Dean should not be the victim again in these circumstances. If someone's committed a crime, then if we do not have enough prison places, or we do not have enough resources to properly punish that person, then we should fine them.
What do you say? I mean, Alan Johnson, the Home Secretary, might be watching this programme, he often does. What do you say to him this morning?
Well, basically, I can say if they want to keep people out of court and it's going to look good for their crime statistics and things like that, that's fine. They didn't even take a statement from me, know the extent of my injuries. There was actually witnesses in the toilet who I had said to the police the next day, whenever they come out to see me, I've got witnesses here, but they turned around and says, well, he's been given the caution, that's the end of it. If they're going to give out cautions, they should actually investigate it and ask me what happened. You can't give a caution for common assault when it's a lot more than common assault.
Your case takes my breath away. They didn't even take a statement on it?
No, I actually had to phone them up about 6 or 7 times over a couple of weeks.
That's staggering, isn't it, Sam?
I do find that
extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, we don't know the full circumstances, obviously, but so we
It's
should
actually my insistence that they take a statement just for the compensation, and whenever they did come out, they just brushed me off, basically.
Got to leave it there. Let us know what you think. I think I can guess your thoughts. So email us at gm.tv, text us 67890. Thanks very much, Dean.
Time is 12 minutes past the hour. Now, violent thugs are being let off with cautions or on-the-spot fines. Panoramas found that nearly 39,000 cautions were given for actual bodily harm last year, and more than 700 for the more serious offence of grievous bodily harm. Well, England's top prosecutor is now demanding a review. Dean Martin ended up in A&E after an unprovoked attack in a nightclub loo, and his attacker got a caution.
They were shouting whenever I first went into the toilet, and then it became more heated. Coming out and going to wash my hands and getting the blow of some sort. Then he's also smashed the bottles of aftershave into me as well.
His attacker later apologised for what was a totally unprovoked assault.
And Dean joins us now, along with Jan Berry, former chairman of the Police Federation of England and Wales, who's now working at the Home Office to reduce red tape in the police force. Good morning to you both. So this was a totally unprovoked attack.
Yep.
And it left you with, obviously we can still see the head wounds, and presumably other lasting damage.
Yeah, I suffer from tinnitus, just like a ringing noise in my ear, and severe chronic headaches nearly every day of the week.
Yeah.
So that was psychological, to post-traumatic stress.
Yes, obviously, a horrible situation. And the attacker didn't go to court, but was given a caution instead.
He was just given a caution there and then outside the club there it happened, without taking a statement from me, asking what happened, without trying to get any witnesses to ask what happened, and knowing the extent of my injuries and that a bottle was used.
That is incredible. And there were witnesses, I'm assuming.
Yeah. The next day I had people that came to me and says that they were in the toilets at the time and seen it, but the police, at that stage, the police had come out to me and told me he was let off with the caution, and I explained, well, I can get people to say what actually really happened, because he was only given the caution for common assault, because they didn't ask me what happened, and they says, well, it's too late now because he's got a caution.
Too late now? You can't go back on a caution? That's it?
Once he's got a caution, that was it, yeah.
Right. Jan, I'm sorry, but it does sound ridiculous, doesn't it?
Well, certainly, in Dean's case, when you can see the injuries, I don't understand why the officers didn't speak to him, didn't find out what the injuries were, because cautions have got a place for minor offences. But for serious offences, like grievous bodily harm, which that type of injury would be, then there are very rare occasions when any caution should be given for a GBH, if at all. And, you know, I agree with Keir Starmer, where, you know, common assault, where there's the DPP, where there's no assault. When there's no injury, then I think a caution might be the appropriate thing, but it should be, you know, the victim should be involved in that decision. It should be appropriate to the circumstances, and it should be proportionate to the circumstances too. So
where's it all going wrong then? Because I tell you what, we've had loads of texts and emails about this, sort of saying, you know, that it just seems ridiculous and that people are let off from really big things. And then, for example, we've got Jen emailed in saying, a youth broke my car aerial. Broke off my car aerial, and he went to court. I received compensation and victim support. How's that equal justice? It just seems ridiculous.
Well, as I say, I think cautions have a part to play, but if the caution's being given or a person is being treated in a way because it's being done speedily or because it's done quicker, I mean, I'm all for reducing bureaucracy, I'm all for reducing red tape, but that should be done because the victim's involved, it's proportionate, it's appropriate to the circumstances, not because it's the quickest way of dealing with things.
You see, that's what people will think, isn't it? People will suspect that the police are just going, right, let's just go with caution. It's so much easier, it's quick, it ticks a box, and that's what you presumably feel, is it, Dean?
Yeah. And at the time, it was sort of told that it happens so often in Newcastle. They can be quite violent, so they just brush it off, and it's easier for them than fill out paperwork.
And it's about paperwork, and that's the problem.
But that's not putting the victim at the centre of the criminal justice system, which is the appropriate thing to do.
Is it going to change?
Well, I think it has to change because victims and the general public expect a proportionate response. They don't expect everybody to go before a court. They do, you know, words of advice and a caution can work, but not for serious offences.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Dean. We did speak to the Minister of Justice, defended the use of caution, saying that in some serious cases of cautions in the interest of the public and the victim, and that the police and the CPS have to use their professional judgment. Thank you very much.